Yo, 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 what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking, all right? So shout out to everybody who is in the room. Hopefully you guys can hear me. If you can hear me okay, please give me a thumbs up or radiation emoji in the chat. If you cannot hear me, give me a thumbs down or an angry face, all right? I'm going to shout out everybody who is in the building early, all right? We got Brooklyn Queen in the house. We got Lloyd Sky 9 up in here. We got Sybil in the building. We got DC Precise. And we got my man In Words for Trump in the building, all right? So let's get into it. What we're going to talk about today is your boy Ron DeSantis is out here star screaming after M.A.G.A.TRON went full GALVATRUMP. All right, so we're gonna talk about it. Now, everybody knows what the deal is with your boy DeSantis. He decided to not participate in New Hampshire. He gonna sit that one out. Now, here go my question. The way that he's trailing in this race, I really don't think that he has the room to be sitting anything out. But for whatever reason, he plans on doing that. So my question for you guys is, why do you guys think that he's doing that? Why is he sitting this one out? Just sit this one out. So this is what M.A.G.A.TRON said about DeSantis. He dubbed DeSantis one of the greatest self-destructions I think I've ever witnessed. Man, that's crazy. Man, that's crazy, man. So here it says, former President Trump called Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign one of the greatest self-destructions I think I've ever witnessed while speaking to supporters in New Hampshire on Friday. When I was in Iowa last week, I'd made a lot of different stops and speeches, and every time I said, just, I don't believe the polls because it had us up 40 or 50 points or so. I said, you got to get out because margins are important, not because the people we're running against, Nikki. I don't even talk about DeSantis. Whatever happened to him, Trump said during a rally in Concord using one of his nicknames to deride DeSantis. Man, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. That's crazy work. Shout out to Toria. What's good with it, bro? So now here it says, well, no, a poll just came out. DeSantis is at 4. What happened to this guy? Man, he hit him with the 50 cent. He said, in high school, you was the man, homie. The heck happened to you? One of the greatest self-destructions I think I've ever witnessed, he continued. Man, Trump made his remarks just days after he saw a landslide win in the Iowa GOP caucus, with DeSantis trailing the former president by roughly 30 points, despite both his campaign and Super PAC pouring most of their resources into the Hawkeye state. Yo, man, that's crazy. That's like going to Vegas and putting all your money in a slot machine and not winning a dime. That's what DeSantis basically did. You know what I'm saying? A senior DeSantis campaign official confirmed to The Hill earlier this week that most of the Florida governor's campaign would be relocating to South Carolina, as it looks as the Palmetto State as the next best opportunity for DeSantis to compete against Trump. Still, polls show Trump leads both Haley and DeSantis in New Hampshire and South Carolina. An average of New Hampshire surveys compiled by Decision Desk HQ and The Hill show Trump ahead 11 points over Haley at roughly 46% and 35% respectively. DeSantis 6%. Yo, DeSantis is sitting at Vivek Ramaswamy numbers, man. DeSantis is sitting at Vivek Ramaswamy numbers, all right? So we're going to check this little video out. This video is basically about the self-destruction of Ron DeSantis. It says what the DeSantis campaign cost: 87,000 lives and 150 million, and Ron's dignity. Man, so he don't have no more dignity after this. So let's get it. Let's check this out.
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
Can I see?
Can we ask why he was doing the bobblehead? I think he was doing the bobblehead after that plasma blast hit him. Y'all see the thumbnail? Ron DeSantis up there on that stage and got hit by that plasma blast. I think that's why he was doing the bobblehead. His nerves still discombobulated.
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
Can I see? Yeah, that's probably a lot of sugar, huh?
And people acquired skills in spite of slavery, not because of it, and then they use those when they achieve their freedom.
Now, Ron DeSantis is just living in his own little delusional world. He's living in his own little delusional world.
In 10 minutes of me being in the city, I see some guy relieving himself on the sidewalk with number 2.
Do you remember Ron DeSantis?
Hold on, man. That's a great highlight reel. Shout out to whoever compiled that highlight reel. If y'all thought that was a great highlight reel, give me a thumbs up. If y'all don't think that was a good highlight reel, give me a thumbs down. We definitely got to watch that again. That was like Ron DeSantis's worst moments.
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
Can I see? Yeah, that's probably a lot of sugar, huh?
And people acquired skills in spite of slavery, not because of it, and then they use those when they achieve their freedom. Within 10 minutes of me being in the city, I see some guy relieving himself on the sidewalk with number 2.
Do you remember Ron DeSantis? That name ring a bell?
Hey, man, what a cornball, man. Hey, if y'all think Ron DeSantis is the corniest dude that ever ran for president, throw some corn on the cob in the chat. Man, what a cornball, man. We got to run that one back. We got to run that back again. We got to run that back one more time. This is Ron DeSantis' greatest hits. This is DJ Blacklight on the ones and twos. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you guys doing this morning? We got hot on the track, you know what I'm saying? Fresh off the street, fresh out the trunk of the car. Ron DeSantis' greatest hits.
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
Can I see? Yeah, that's probably a lot of sugar, huh?
And people acquired skills in spite of slavery, not because of it, and then they use those when they achieve their freedom. Within 10 minutes of me being in the city, I see some guy relieving himself on the sidewalk with number 2.
Oh, man, it's over with, man. It's over with for DeSantis, man. He ain't even going to be able to get a job at McDonald's after this.
Do you remember Ron DeSantis? That name ring a bell? If Republican primary voters do, the memories are not particularly fond ones. He is currently polling in a whopping 6% of primary voters in New Hampshire polls. Number so low, he skipped the state and went straight to South Carolina, where he has a much more robust 7%.
Oh, man. Hey, man, if I was Ron DeSantis, I would take Christopher Rufo out back. Look what Christopher Rufo did to Ron DeSantis, man. That's what you get when you take your campaign advice from a dude that got his degree out of a Cracker Jack box. Let me ask you guys this question. If you all had been taking campaign advice from Christopher Rufo this entire time and your numbers had you sitting like this, what would you do? He spent $150 million for snake eyes.
It has gotten so bad that after his second place finish in Iowa, the top DeSantis super PAC, named, somewhat ironically, Never Back Down, laid off much of its staff in some big states. Hard to believe now, but there was a time this was the far-right Florida governor's race to lose. A year ago, he was even beating Donald Trump head-to-head by double digits in the polls, a huge lead to go with a huge campaign chest, $150 million raised by last summer. The problem was that the more people heard Ron DeSantis and saw Ron DeSantis and interacted with Ron DeSantis, the less they liked him. I mean, even Nikki Haley won't debate him now. He ran a truly terrible campaign. He squandered those millions. But I have to point out that worse than that, there is, I think, plausibly an actual death toll associated with the DeSantis campaign for president. One of his key plans in this race was to be Trumpier than Donald Trump. And a big part of that strategy was running to Trump's right on the COVID pandemic measures, which included trashing the vaccines, the Trump vaccines, and he is still doing it.
They lied to us about the COVID shots. Remember, they said if you take a COVID shot, you will not get COVID. How true was that? Not at all. Now, every booster you take, you're more likely to get COVID as a result of it.
No, that's not true. That is not true. That's false. Dangerously false. But that's who DeSantis is. He also yelled at kids for wearing masks in a pandemic, and he hired a state surgeon general who spread complete, totally nutty lies that the mRNA vaccine would infiltrate your DNA. And it all had a tangible effect on the health.
You know what's crazy? There was a point in time where Ron DeSantis was getting it. People were feeling him. People were listening to what he was saying. People were saying that he was smart. They were saying, this is an intelligent guy. And we were telling everybody that he was an idiot the entire time. It's crazy how people's delusions will just lead them completely the opposite direction of common sense. Yeah, I gotta agree. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. Brooklyn Queen said all of these high IQ individuals, right? This is definitely a showcase of Ron DeSantis's IQ, wouldn't you guys say? This is definitely a showcase. This is a very accurate showcase of Ron DeSantis's IQ. And shout out to everybody that's watching. We got 15 people watching and we got 11 likes. If everybody can take a moment, smash that like button and get us to 20, that'd be great.
Health of residents in America's third biggest state. Look at this chart. It shows the very first COVID wave that hit after the vaccine became available and after DeSantis started bashing the vaccines. As Florida vaccination rates flagged, its death rate in Delta wave topped out at nearly 3 times the rest of America. 87,000 Floridians have died of COVID on DeSantis' watch, according to the New York Times.
Shout out to Miss Nisi. What's up with Miss Nisi?
6% of New Hampshire Republican votes? It's easy to laugh at DeSantis and his terrible presidential campaign, but it costs more than $150 million.
Man, let me ask you guys a question. If y'all had $150 million to just throw away, what would y'all throw it away on? You got $150 million to live. What would you do? What would you buy?
And his dignity. And it also cost actual lives. Joining me now is David Jelly, former Republican congressman of Florida who served alongside Ron DeSantis in the House. Every once in a while, I'm reminded the guy's still governor of the third largest state, presumably with a day job he should be attending to. And the Surgeon General is still the Surgeon General, saying just utterly, recklessly dangerous, insidious, nutty stuff about the COVID vaccines.
Yeah, Chris, perhaps the best part of Ron DeSantis' year on the campaign trails, it kept him out of the state of Florida, and he did less harm here. As you identified, Ron DeSantis, a uniquely unlikable politician, and I think the words of the book of Proverbs have rarely been more prescient, that pride goeth before a fall, because this is a governor whose first dad said that on the 8th day, God created Ron DeSantis, and now he's simply in this race running to be the last one to drop out. And so how did we get there? Look, he had a 19-point win in his reelection in the state of Florida, a historic win. He did it, as you mentioned, based on the politics.
So let me ask you guys this question. Would you all say that Ron DeSantis being the governor flopped the same way that Joe Biden flopped? Is that a safe assumption to make? If that's a safe assumption to make, then give me a thumbs up. If it's not, then give me a thumbs down. Shout out to JW. What's good with it, bro?
COVID, on culture wars, and on a weakened Florida Democratic Party. And none of those key elements of his reelection were actually translatable to a presidential campaign. And he also had the vanity that came with being a very powerful governor, the most powerful we've seen in a couple decades. Mix in with that the raw ambition of his partner on the trail, his spouse.
I don't think that Ron DeSantis was a powerful governor at all. If you ask me, Ron DeSantis is a little dude with a little man complex, and all he did was just exercise abusing his power to make him look like a dictator, to make him look tough, to make him look like somebody that he's not. And now that he is actually in pressure situations and dealing with, challenges that are facing him, the same way we figured that he was made out of nothing, he's not showing up for anything. You know what I'm saying? This dude was literal hot air. And he ran his entire campaign on trying to appease people by trying to make policies that were harmful to black people and that opened up black people for vulnerabilities and violence to be done against us. And what I find ironic and karma poetry, right? Poetic karma is that now Ron DeSantis is the victim of political violence because his campaign and all of his money is bleeding at the jugular. You know what I'm saying?
Balance. And you see a candidate who thought he was going to step in this race and replace Donald Trump, but he miscalculated that. He thought that the party would get past Donald Trump. He thought the Department of Justice would sink Donald Trump, or he thought he could engage in a delegate slog, and none of those strategies have worked. And so now it is kind of a political death watch. I don't know that he leaves after New Hampshire. I wonder if both Haley and DeSantis drop out on the night of South Carolina, but either way, he's on his way out.
Yeah, one of the reasons
man, that's bad if you got people out here talking about you like that, man. Yo, do you guys agree with what this analyst says, that DeSantis is on his way out? If you ask me, he's already out. You know what I'm saying? He's done. He's done. You know what I'm saying? He's done. He's dun. He's done. Done.
I want to talk to you tonight is because you've known DeSantis for a while. Obviously, you were active. You were a Republican congressman in Florida. You've been active in politics in the state. You know him, and you very early on. In fact, we did a live show down in Miami. You were like, "This guy is not very likable and not very good campaigning, and I don't think this is going to sell." And you said it very early on, and I do wonder how much there were strategic miscalculations, which they were, or just ultimately, just this guy just doesn't have the appeal to do it.
Yeah, look, some people are uniquely bad.
Now, if you ask me, it's a combination of both of those things that he just said. He doesn't have any appeal whatsoever, and it's a complete miscalculation because this dude actually thought that he was a factor when he largely miscalculated that, because in reality, he's a non-factor. You know what I'm saying?
Bad at retail politics. He is. We know that. Maybe he has other strengths, but it's that raw combination of arrogance and anger. And
yeah, I gotta agree with you, JW. Shout out to JW. JW put up a good comment. He says, in many ways, I hope Trump wins. Like, keep the racism WS real. No proxies need apply. At least B1 knows what we're dealing with. Hope you understand my reasoning here. Yeah, absolutely. I completely get what you're saying. If you guys agree with JW, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. I agree with what you're saying, but in my honest opinion, with Trump and Biden as the two candidates who are competing, I honestly do not believe that Biden is competent enough to be president. With all of the negative things about Trump that anybody could possibly say, I still think that he's better suited, if he is the other option, to be the president than Joe Biden. I really actually believe that. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we can just get some Hail Mary candidate to replace Trump at this juncture in present time. So if we're looking at the real and raw, you know what I'm saying? Despite all of the negative things that Trump may be, Biden is not only worse, but he's worse on top of being incompetent. And the interesting thing about Biden is Biden only seems to gain competency when he's either doing something that's abrasive towards black people, or when he's coming up with nonsensical reasons of why we shouldn't get reparations or who should get reparations in addition to us, which always ends up with that other group of people getting reparations and us not getting anything, and then them taking statistics from us during the time that they're in office and saying how they did all of this stuff for us, allegedly, which, you know, never materializes into anything and never ever happens. You know what I'm saying? You don't got niggas for Trump mad. You already know niggas for Trump about to start wilding out in the comment section. Oh man, hey, Shout out to everybody in the comment section, man. We need somebody to do a cape check on niggas for Trump. Make sure he don't have a cape too tight. You know what I'm saying? We don't want him to choke himself.
And it's both are very powerful, right? I mean, if you consider his culture wars, within his culture wars is his personal ethos that he knows best how you should raise your kids and what your family should believe. His attacks on the migrant community is an attack on diversity.
Hey, hey, Lloyd Sky 9 or DC Precise. Do a check on niggas for Trump's knot on the Boy Scout knot that he got in the front, holding that cape in place. Make sure it's not too tight. Make sure all the air still going to his brain. You know what I'm saying?
His attack on voting rights is an attack on empowering communities of color to exercise their franchise and participate in democracy. His attack on education and the LGBT community.
Now, see, this is what's interesting about this, right? This guy who's talking right here, who's throwing DeSantis under the bus. You see, he's a former congressman and he's a Republican. So now my question is, while he was in office, all of this quote unquote caping that he's quote unquote doing for quote unquote communities of color, because Ron DeSantis didn't attack communities of color. Ron DeSantis specifically attacked Black people. And he did a little bit of, just a little bit of elbowing to the legitimate community, you know what I'm saying? And the gender converters, you know what I'm saying? He did a little bit of elbowing to them to make it look like he wasn't just attacking Black people. And mind you, under his watch and under his rhetoric, there was a anti-Black race massacre in Florida. You know what I'm saying? So my question is, while this guy, David Jolly, like, hey, last name is Jolly. I wonder if you're Jolly. You know what I'm saying? I wonder if you were Jolly and, you know what I'm saying, caping for quote unquote people of color like you are now. I highly doubt it. But for them MSNBC ducats, and he probably had a little issue with Ron DeSantis, and throw Ron DeSantis under the bus, and he ain't going back because he's a former congressman. This dude would probably just say anything. You know what I'm saying?
And it's both are very powerful, right? I mean, if you consider his culture wars, within his culture wars is his personal ethos that he knows best how you should raise your kids and what your family should believe. His attacks on the migrant community is an attack on diversity. His attack on voting rights is an attack.
What was his attack on the migrant community? What was Ron DeSantis's attack on the migrant community? Hold on, let's run that back. Did Ron DeSantis attack the migrant community? Did we miss something? What did Ron DeSantis's quote unquote attack on the migrant community look like? What is this guy talking about? Now, you guys know that's one of the things, that's one of the highlights of my channel is the migrant crisis coverage. And we really didn't talk much about DeSantis in regards to migrants at all. I think he rejected a law in Florida that made it where illegal migrants aren't allowed to get driver's license or something like that. He did that very quietly. There wasn't a lot of loud rhetoric around it. So I don't know why we're calling that an attack. Yeah, exactly. This is the attack. You know what I'm saying? Saying that the businesses need to verify their employees. That's not an attack. They have to verify the legal employees. I find it interesting that they call attacks on the migrant community things that we're required to do. If requiring migrants to do what we're required to do is an attack, then what is it called for requiring us to do those things? Shout out to JW. JW says DeSantis didn't attack the migrant community. His white base needs them to clean their houses. And that's facts. That's big facts. And to cut the grass.
Combination of arrogance and anger And it's both are very powerful, right? I mean, if you consider his culture wars, within his culture wars is his personal ethos that he knows best how you should raise your kids and what your family should believe. His attacks on the migrant community is an attack on diversity. His attack on voting rights is an attack on empowering communities of color to exercise.
What is his attack on voting rights? The only thing that I know as far as quote unquote his quote unquote attack on voting rights is that I think they were trying to strategically redistrict. But even if they strategically redistrict, that's more of a lockout blockout thing. It's not directly affecting the voting, but what it is doing is it's taking away particular options and availability for representation of the black people in Florida. And that wasn't an attack on people of color either. Those were specific carving up of black congressional blocks. So again, it's just interesting to hear this. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy Jolly has some type of personal beef with DeSantis, and this is the only reason why he's saying this. Because my thing is, if he's so opposed to all of these things that Ron DeSantis was doing, aside from doing this interview, which really is not any intervention at all, what did he do to step in the way of this? What do you guys if you guys think that this guy Jolly was actually outraged about this stuff that he's telling on DeSantis for, and he did something about it, give me a thumbs up. If you guys think that he's just hot air and he's just fronting for the camera, then give me a thumbs down.
Exercise their franchise and participate in democracy. His attack on education and the LGBT community is.
Now, why is it that they can mention the LGBTQ community by name, but they can't mention black people by name? What's up with that? And shout out to Carla and Denise and Brooklyn Queen for being bot enforcers. Appreciate it. Make that make sense, y'all.
Is an attack on the independence of parenting that my wife and I would like to be in charge of for our children. And so if he took culture wars too far, I think it's in that vein. I think he chose culture wars because it was a way to run adjacent to Donald Trump in a space that Trump didn't own, but it didn't work and it backfired on him. And I think it's good for the country that it did.
Yeah.
Now that's interesting because that's interesting. This guy, he borrowed some of those talking points. Would you guys agree that this guy borrowed some of those talking points? I guarantee you he was not saying this stuff while he was serving. He would have been shunned from the Republicans.
I mean, I think, again, it's very easy for candidates to confuse preference with intensity in politics, which is you run a poll and they say, look, Republican Party voters agree with you on health care for trans youth. And they do. Republican Party voters do agree with Ron DeSantis on that. I think they're wrong. But also, if like that's what you're obsessed with, you come off like a weirdo, even to Republican primary voters. And honestly, like this stuff, I think that the sort of the obsessiveness and the narrowness of that focus really did end up costing him.
Yeah, these mainstream media guys, they definitely borrowed, quote unquote, borrow talking points, and these aren't their original talking points. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, Chris, look, the trans issue is a relatively new one for our culture, and you can see the good faith actors trying to achieve equity, and you see the bad faith actors attacking it. And I suppose if there's a silver lining in the politics of Ron DeSantis' race for the White House, it's exactly what you point out, that there's a limitation on attacking the trans community. It can't take you to the White House, and that's a good.
Well, my first instinct on him as a national candidate was that I may be an out-of-touch New York City liberal, but I know my country, and the man is too short to be president. I think that's proven to be true. David Jolly, thank you very much.
So, yeah, so Ron DeSantis is little man syndrome. You know what I'm saying? Definitely little man syndrome. So now here it says, meanwhile, an average of South Carolina surveys from Decision Desk HQ and The Hill show Trump at about 54% and Haley at 25% and DeSantis at 9%. Trump claimed while speaking to his supporters that former UN ambassador Nikki Haley ain't doing too good either, adding she's down very low. Haley is facing a make or break moment in New Hampshire to win the state over Trump, with some experts saying she's likely to face questions about her viability if she isn't able to capture the granted state. She's not going to beat Trump in Iowa. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just not happening. You know what I'm saying? There would have to be some type of just extreme weirdness if she did win. And we're going to be talking about that. We're going to do an entire stream about Nikki Haley versus Donald Trump prior to that New Hampshire caucus. All right. And we're going to see how good we are as far as, our analysis. All right. So now, how many people know who the rapper Meek Mill is? If you guys know who the rapper Meek Mill is, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't, give me a thumbs down. Like Plies, like Charlemagne, we got more rappers, more commentators, more celebrities weighing in on what they're completely not qualified to do. Instead of explaining what goes on at weird parties, they want to talk about politics. So we're going to check out this video from The Hill real quick.
Nice to see you back. Welcome to Rising. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Robbie Suave, and this is Brianna Joy Gray. We don't introduce ourselves every day. I think they know who we are by now.
We're a big family at this point.
That is certainly what it feels like. All right, let's get straight into the show. First off, new Atlanta Journal-Constitution polling shows President Biden trailing former President Trump in Georgia by a whopping 8 points. Meanwhile, 19% of respondents say they hadn't decided yet between the two. Since the AJC's last polling just 2 months ago, Biden has dropped 7 percentage points in the Peach State.
ABC polling released last week finds just 33% of the country approves of Joe Biden's job performance thus far, a record low for his presidency and for any president in the last 15 years. Worse for Biden, just 28% of respondents said they believed he has the, quote, mental sharpness to serve another 4 years. Even rapper Meek Mill weighed in. He was flamed on Twitter yesterday for stating what many Americans are clearly already thinking. He wrote, Joe Biden is too old to be our president. Respectfully, WTF is going on in the American system. That y'all are pushing this through like it's okay to trust what we're seeing. We're talking missiles, advanced technology, mental and physical warfare. That's not a lane for the older. Meanwhile,
now here's my question, right? Out of everybody who talks about politics on social media, my question for you guys is, why would The Hill quote tweet and do a segment on a tweet from Meek Mills? How does The Hill even know who Meek Mills is? If that's not weird to you guys, I don't know what is. To me, that is very strange. Now, I want to ask you guys a question. Have you ever seen them quote tweet or use for an entire news segment something that other celebrities from other communities have posted and actually take that serious as if it's the words of the entire group? Have you ever seen that before? If you guys haven't seen that, if you guys have seen that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys have not seen this, give me a thumbs down. And yeah, that's, remember, shout out to JW. We keep asking, where Cornel West at? Cornel, where you at? Cornel West just disappeared. Yeah, I gotta agree. If you guys agree with DC Precise, throw them corn on the cobs in the chat.
Advanced technology, mental and physical warfare. That's not a lane for the older. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris made her case for another 4 years during a one-on-one with ABC News this week.
Shout out to Jesse. What's good with it, bro?
Obviously can't change the president's age. So what is your plan to try and change this perception? How do you do that?
I'll tell you the reality of it is, and I spent a lot of time with President Biden, be it in the Oval Office, in the Situation Room, and other places. He is extraordinarily smart. He has the ability.
Now, she said that he's extraordinarily smart. You know you sitting up there lying. Kamala Harris, for many things, but in this current situation, for sitting up here telling these lies, girl, you ought to be ashamed of your damn self. You ought to be ashamed of your damn self. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen for being a like enforcer. She ought to be ashamed of her damn self sitting up here lying like that.
To see around the corner in terms of what might be the challenges we face as a nation or globally.
But it doesn't seem that that's getting out and resonating with Americans, with a lot of your supporters. How do you cut through that and make sure that they're seeing the Joe Biden that you were just describing?
Well, I mean, listen, you're here with me in South Carolina. You saw every room we went in, the numbers of people who are there applauding quite loudly. And they're applauding for me and they're applauding for Joe Biden.
I've seen some of those Biden rallies. Have you guys seen those Biden rallies? when you guys have observed a Biden rally, what was one thing that stood out like a sore thumb? Did you happen to notice anything? Because I did, but I'm just curious to see if y'all noticed what I noticed. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to everybody that's watching. We got 23 people watching and we got 19 likes. If everybody can bang on that like button and get us to 30, that'd be great.
What's incredible is that the answer to that question, how you get voters to see a different side of Joe Biden or more of Joe Biden or your perspective on Joe Biden, would be to have a Democratic primary. If for the last 8 months, Joe Biden had been on debate stages, doing town halls, interacting with the public, and having to distinguish himself and his views from other candidates in the field the same way Republicans have been doing, then we'd have some sense of the man and perhaps a different perspective on his stamina and his ability to lead.
You want to see him clap like seals again? Hold on. Oh, man, we at SeaWorld because I don't see Joe Biden doing a damn thing. You know what I'm saying? I got to agree with JW. JW says the attendance always looks low and scattered. That's facts. That's big facts. The attendance not only always looks low and scattered, the attendance always is low and scattered. Just like Joe Biden's IQ and brain. Joe Biden's audience matches his brain activity. That's scary. You think it's like that on purpose?
I mean, listen, you're here with me in South Carolina. You saw every room we went in, the numbers of people who are there applauding quite loudly. And they're applauding for me and they're applauding for Joe Biden.
What's incredible is that the answer to that question, how you get voters to see a different side of Joe Biden or more of
Hey, Cameron, they was applauding like this. There's clap. Oh man! As soon as Joe Biden came on, they said. Oh man, Joe Biden ain't got a chance in hell.
Joe Biden or your perspective on Joe Biden would be to have a Democratic primary. If for the last 8 months, Joe Biden had been on debate stages doing town.
That's big facts. That's big facts. Shout out to shout out to Torian. Yeah, shout out to KG too. That's KG girl right there. Brianna Joy Gray. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Brianna Joy Gray, man. She be doing her thing on the Hill, man. I ain't mad at her at all. You know what I'm saying? I hope they don't try to do her like they did Kim Iverson, though. You know what I'm saying? I hope she, do her thing, get her money, and get up out of there.
Town halls, interacting with the public, and having to distinguish himself and his views from other candidates in the field the same way Republicans have been doing, then we'd have some sense of the man and perhaps a different perspective on his stamina and his ability to lead. But Democrats have put themselves in a situation where they not only shut down a primary, they changed the debate schedule, didn't put Joe Biden on the ballot in New Hampshire, trying to disqualify the state altogether, and then now are looking around confused as to why voters have no idea who this guy is and are easily persuaded by the worst version of him that obviously the conservative media is going to.
Hey, man, Sky News put out another Joe Biden fail compilation. So I got to holler at my man Grind and Motivate, but y'all might get a roast of Joe Biden reacts stream this week if we can link up. So that might be coming. Also, guys, I got a surprise for you guys. I got a surprise for you guys. You guys want to see it? If you guys want to see the surprise, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't want to see the surprise, then give me a thumbs down. Y'all want to see the surprise? If y'all want to see the surprise, give me a thumbs up. If y'all don't want to see the surprise, then I guess y'all will just see it when it comes. Are we gonna do like this? We're gonna do like this. I know exactly how I'm gonna show it to y'all. All right, cool, bet. All right, hold on. I'm going to show it to y'all. Hold on real quick. We're going to take this down. All right, check this out. Check this out. Hold on real quick. Oh, shit, I forgot where I put it. What y'all think about that? What y'all think about that? I told you, man, 2024. 2024, man. Y'all killed it in 2023. Shout out to y'all, man. So y'all got some stuff coming. Y'all got some stuff coming. Now that was the outro. I ain't gonna show y'all the intro until episode 1. Yeah. Shout out to the bus. Hey, man, I appreciate it when y'all be catching the little troll moves that I do in my artwork, man. I appreciate that.
Put out there. They really did seem to make their own bet on this one.
Yeah, it would sharpen him. It would help him to participate. The same is true for Donald Trump, obviously.
Yes.
He would refuse to do any of the debates. I think, frankly, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis have gotten better every time they've had to do it. And their last debate was just the two of them arguing with some of the most substantive criticism of each other and actually, frankly, of Donald Trump, which they need to do. So there's no reason not to participate. And it's just, again, another strategic blunder on Democrats' part that they have not subjected him to this process at a time where their voters are clearly saying they're at least interested in exploring alternatives. Then if you give them alternatives and they say, no, we're actually sticking with Joe Biden, well, then at least you've run that experiment. But why you would not do that when poll after poll shows him down nationally and shows him down in the...
Hey, y'all like the charter bus? Y'all like the migrant party bus? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We're going to ride, slide, slippity slide. When you're trying to cross the border, it's do or die. Come along and ride along, migrant bus. What's up? Going to the sanctuary city so they don't arrest us. Just climb the wall. That's what you do. Just climb the wall. That's all. Do the migrant walk. Do the migrant walk. Do the migrant walk. Do the migrant walk. Come along and ride along, migrant bus.
The key swing states, including Georgia. So now he's 8 points down in Georgia, a state that in the 2020 election flipped red to blue. And then in the 2022 midterms, and then immediately following the election, the both Senate seats flipped blue during those special elections that were held there. In 2022, one of those seats was successfully held and defended by Democrats. This was becoming a state that, even to the extent it was interested in Republicans, it was specifically interested in non-Trump Republicans. Its governor, Brian Kemp, Republican governor, had his standoff with Trump over the election, stuck to principles, was attempted to be forced out by Trump, didn't happen. It remains very popular, but otherwise becoming a Democratic state, a blue state. And now you see that voters, that Biden's 8 points down in that state, a state he needs to win. He needs to win it. He needs to win Arizona. He needs to win either Pennsylvania.
Biden is down everywhere, okay? There's nowhere where Biden is winning anything. You guys recall that article that we read yesterday from the New York Post, where it talked about how all the Republican candidates are all ahead of Biden in the poll. So if Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley can somehow pull some type of miracle Hail Mary win over Trump, which we know is is not very likely, but if that situation did occur, because nothing is impossible, you know what I'm saying? So if somehow that did happen, both of them are still ahead of Biden in the polls. Now, what I find interesting is that as political season is approaching and we're starting to, see campaign rallies and, people going on the campaign trail and stuff like that, I honestly have not identified a Democrat strategy at all. I haven't identified a Democrat strategy at all. I honestly couldn't tell you exactly what it is that they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. And I actually mean that. Like really, have you all seen any effort from the Democrats? Like, you could see Trump, he's going on the campaign trail. He's popping up in the places where the debates are, diverting attention away from the debates. He's active. He's moving around. What are the Democrats doing at all? because when they do something, when they make a move, we'll definitely cover it. And, you know, since it's not Trump specific, you know, we'll cover it all over the place, right? But I haven't come across anything. So I'm curious as to what it is that they're doing.
Pennsylvania or Michigan, something like that. These are all places where voters are showing signs of fatigue with the Biden administration.
Yeah, and I will note that in some ways this is not surprising. I remember listening to interviews with election workers, door knockers, people who were working to turn folks out for the Democratic Party in the wake of 2020. And what they clearly said is that we used all of our political capital on this race. Joe Biden told us that we needed Georgia. Joe Biden told us that we needed Georgia to win the Senate. And we came through and we sold his promises. We talked about stimulus checks. We talked about student debt cancellation. We talked about specifically Biden's promise to cancel all HBCU debt. Georgia is a hub for three.
Now, come on, Brianna Joy Gray. Are you going to say anything about how how Biden's mentioned to specifically have black people's back and that fell through every single time? Let me ask you guys, do you guys think that she's going to say anything about that, or is she going to kind of not say anything about that? I don't think she's going to say anything. You know what I'm saying? I don't think she's going to say anything. Now, see, you know, if Brianna Joy Gray was, you know what I'm saying, if she was rocking with Death Row, you know what I'm saying, you wouldn't have somebody, you know what I'm saying, in a gray suit dancing in your video talking about all lives matter. You know what I'm saying?
Major HBCUs. And we don't have anything left. If he betrays these promises, we cannot in good faith convince people to come out for him because it was such a reach in the first instance. Biden in 2020 was a candidate that was an alternative to Trump, not an entity in and of itself that people were enthusiastic about. And now I do think that that the Democratic Party should not take lightly that the organizations, the voter groups, people like Black Voters Matter and the like, who did so much of the work on the ground to make sure that people turn out to the polls, simply either are not going to have that same interest in doing so, or are just not going to have the same ability to say, hey, this guy is going to make your life better, because now he has to defend his record over the last 3 years.
They seem, they being the Democratic Party, seem.
There is no defense for Biden's record. There's no defense for it. His record is completely indefensible. We've had the highest gas prices. We've had the highest inflation. You know, we're sending out a lot of money, military aid. Biden looks bad. He is bad. Biden's record, for the most part, is, you know, indefensible. Shout out to DC Precise. DC Precise says she didn't want to fight with her girlfriend next to her. I know, old boy be getting sassy. Remember when the other sassy dude was on there? I used to think that it was going to be a fist fight between all three of them, or between both of them and Kim Iverson. They was going to jump Kim and hit her up with some pink nunchucks. You know what I'm saying?
Seems confident that, well, Trump's going to be the nominee. He'll be front and center again, and that will remind, and we'll just remind voters of how racist and sexist and anti-immigrant he is. And what you want? This is what you want? You want fascism? No, you don't. You're going to vote for Joe Biden. That seems to.
No, what is he sitting up here babbling about? Hold on.
Or are just not going to have the same ability to say, hey, this guy is going to make your life better, because now he has to defend his record over the last 3 years.
They seem, they being the Democratic Party, seems confident that, well, Trump's going to be the nominee. He'll be front and center again, and that will remind, and we'll just remind voters of how racist and sexist and anti-immigrant he is. And what you want? This is what you want? You want fascism? No, you don't. You're going to vote for Joe Biden. That seems to.
I actually agree with him on this. What he's saying right here, I actually agree with him. That actually kind of does seem like it's what the Democrat strategy at the current moment, and it has been in the past before. That does kind of seem like what they're doing. It seems like they're kind of just sitting back to kind of allow the fear to develop on its own with the Trump momentum. And now they have Charlemagne pouring gas on that fire, acting like a skeptic shill. So I kind of actually agree with what he's saying right here. Do you guys agree? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
To be their strategy.
And I think,
and at a time where actually, like, cable, as we've commented on yesterday, cable news has like stopped even showing things. They think Trump, the things that Trump says are so beyond the pale, they can't even show them to viewers, which is going to actually complicate making that case. If you're too afraid to actually show people what Donald Trump has to say for himself, that's actually going to protect him from criticism. It's the most backward thinking strategy ever. Of course, it's the one embraced by CNN and MSNBC, but that's a little bit of a digression. But it's interesting.
I think that's right. And I also think that there has to be an acknowledgement that these are not kind of superficial whims. The voters in Georgia who worked work so hard for voter turnout, they're not people who are saying, well, Joe Biden is old, therefore I'm not interested in him anymore. They're people who have been substantively disappointed by Biden reneging on his own agenda. Democrats are hoping that people will simply forget about a lot of these agenda items. And some of them...
Literally nobody is going to forget about these agenda items. I want you guys in the comment section to list all the things that Joe Biden went back on his word about. And let's not mention there's a whole nother list of things that Biden just absolutely flat out said, I'm not doing that for you, even though you saved my campaign. Nobody forgot about that. In their delusional minds, they want to believe that we forgot about that. Nobody forgot about that. Nobody forgot about that. Nobody's going to forget about it. Nobody's going to put it behind them, and nobody's going to let it go, and nobody's going to just, quote unquote, just get past it. None of that is happening. What the Democrats are feeling is the frigid feel of accountability. You know what I'm saying? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to everybody that's watching. I appreciate each and every one of you all. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel and you're watching, we're moving. We're on the way to 500. Smash that like button. Hit that bell. Subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're subscribed or not subscribed and you're not following M.A.G.A.TRON 645 on Twitter, make sure you guys take a moment and subscribe. You don't have to move. The bots will put the link for it right in the chat. All right. And also, if you haven't shared the stream to your social media, please take a moment and do that as well.
They very may well. If this were just a standoff between whether abortion rights versus student debt were going to win, I'd say Biden has a solid chance of convincing people that the former is more important than the betrayal on the latter. But Gaza has really thrown an unforeseen monkey wrench into the machinery here. And when you look at states like Michigan with their large Arab populations, and you look at the thousands and thousands of voters who are saying, not only am I not going to vote for Biden today, he is now irredeemable in my eyes because this is not an abstraction. This is not about my financial.
So Brianna Joy Gray, she just kind of like didn't even mention anything in regards to black people or the black constituency at all. She just steamrolled right past that. She just steamrolled right over that. So there's that.
Financial security. This is something like student debt, for example, or the PRO Act not passing, or the $50 minimum wage not passing. This is about the fact that people I know and love on the other side of the world have been killed and are never coming back. That's not something you forget about. And his indifference to the real hurt and pain of his base. 80% of Democrats want there to be a ceasefire, and him acting as though those people are frankly terrorists for wanting that outcome in a foreign policy context is, I think, really going to hurt him.
So what she did was, you know, she leaned heavily in her argument on the Israel Hamas conflict, which, I mean, you know, that is going on and that's there. But I just find it interesting that, you know, one of the things that literally everybody knows is that black people saved Joe Biden's campaign, and he's literally disrespected black people, turned his back on black people, and not done anything for black people at damn near every opportunity that he got. And there was the leaked Zoom call where he literally just flat out said, hey, listen, I'm not doing anything for you. You know what I'm saying? Despite the fact that that's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to, you know what I'm saying, service your constituents. But as you can see, it must be part of Democrat culture to not service their constituents because, hate to sound like Fox News, but you see what's going on in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So now, this is an article from the Telegraph, and it came out 2 days ago. And what they're saying is that Trump already won. And we had started this article the other day, and we're going to try to get through it today. All right. So now here it says the Trump juggernaut is unstoppable. He won Iowa with over half the vote and a helpful second place to Ron DeSantis, who poses little long-term threat. New Hampshire on Tuesday will be less a battle of the campaigns than the pollsters. American Research Group shows Trump and Nikki Haley neck to neck, whereas Suffolk University gives the Donald a 16-point lead. The money is on the latter. 538.com awards Suffolk an A- for reliability and ARC a mere C. Okay. Assuming Trump does win, the race won't just be over. It never really happened. The French post-structuralist Jean Baudrillard famously argued that the Gulf War did not take place. The West's overwhelming firepower rendered Iraqi defeat inevitable. All that made a one-sided massacre look like a war with savvy media coverage. Likewise, if we put aside the podcasts, town halls, and endless footage of Trump walking into and out of courthouses, the reality is that Trump hasn't debated his opponents once. Haley pulled out of the New Hampshire debate. DeSantis has unofficially withdrawn from the state altogether. He's campaigning in South Carolina, Haley's hometown, where Trump is comfortably ahead. Meanwhile, the Democrats aren't holding a real primary. The White House decided to punish New Hampshire for scheduling its contest early, so no delegates will be allotted, and Joe Biden will not appear on the ballot, yet still predicted to win a landslide via write-ins. Primary seasons have peaked early before. Al Gore ended the 2000 Democrat race when he edged Bill Bradley in New Hampshire, and most of them are over by Super Tuesday in February and March. But the sheer meaningless of this year's contest is unusual, a throwback to the 1960s when primaries were for show and nominations decided elsewhere. 2024 hinges on events largely external to the democratic process. Will Trump be taken off the ballot or sent to prison? What do you guys think? You guys think that Trump will be taken off the ballot or sent to prison? I don't think either is going to happen. Will Biden be swapped for Gavin Newsom this summer? This could be the first Democrat convention that has truly mattered since 1968, which you can either see as a coup by shadowy power brokers or a return to an earlier, samer regime by which statesmen, not grassroots ideologies, pick the president. Speaking of ideology, that has taken a backseat as well. Biden's most prominent challenger, Dean Phillips, a Minnesota congressman who could take as much as a quarter of the vote in New Hampshire, though his campaign has rarely caught fire. At one event, literally no one showed up. That's wild. Quoting Field of Dreams, Phillips quipped, "Sometimes if you build it, they don't come." It doesn't help that Phillips hasn't honed in on a substantive liberal issue to whip up a protest vote. His only complaint is Biden's age. Haley and DeSantis have also steered clear of directly opposing Trumpism for the widespread assumption that is Haley wants to be the Donald's VP, DeSantis his heir in 2024. Haley has challenged the Trumpites on Ukraine, granted, but having faced no public debate. The frontrunner escapes scrutiny of his positions, and the race focuses on personality. It's almost medieval. Is the king too old? Is the pretender crooked? Will either last out the year? Once upon a time, people didn't cast ballots, they cast horoscopes. And on the basis that Gemini is in the 9th house, I predict that come November, we'll look back on this as the most obvious presidential race in a while, one destined to take this shape since November 2020, for is and always was going to be a rematch. I mean, we know that. We know that. You know what I mean? Why was it all so inevitable? Because Trump refused to accept the result of the last contest, because the Republican Party machine hasn't the will to break with him, nor will his constituency abandon him. Also, because Biden is as much a narcissist as his opposite number and won't step aside, even though his mental decline is palpable. Finally, one suspects that people most comfortable with Trump and Biden's victories are Biden and Trump's themselves. For each regards the renomination of the other as their best shot at winning. Are they correct? Would Haley or Newsom be a tougher opponent? A recent YouGov poll found Haley beating Biden by 8 points, wider than Trump's 2% lead. By contrast, Newsom demonstrates no advantage over Biden in hypothetical heats against Trump. With Americans feeling so glum about the direction of their country, any Republican candidate is probably stronger than any Democrat, which we've already that's not even an assumption. We've already shown proof of that. Shout out to Ty Valentine. What's good with it, bro? We've already shown proof of that. So this right here, what they're saying, it's not even it's not even speculation. It's actually legitimate mathematical fact. You know what I'm saying? Real quick, shout out to everybody that's watching. We got 29 people watching. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. And we got 22 likes. If everybody can bang on that like button and get us to 40, that'd be great. When voters feel depressed in the two-party system, the incumbent slumps and the opposite rises. Thus, a Trump victory in November is entirely logical. I mean, you know, of course it's entirely logical. That's where all roads seem like they're leading. So what we're going to do now is the undocumented bros are going to make a special appearance here. And they're going to make a special appearance because your boy Trump is going to take some shots at the undocumented bros. Trump going to take some shots at the undocumented bros. Let me ask you guys a question. You guys think that Trump has what it takes to deal with the undocumented bros? So we're about to listen to Trump talk about what he plans to do as far as illegal immigration. Now, mind you, this is old news. He said this at the pre-caucus Iowa rally. All right. So now I want you guys to let me know how you feel about what he says as far as the undocumented bros.
Fast. Drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill. And also on day one, I will seal the border and I will shut down the invasion of our country. It's an invasion. This isn't a normal situation. This is an invasion. Thank you. 3 years ago, we had the most secure border in U.S. history by far. We built 561 miles of border wall. You know, if there's a little piece, there's a nail from a wall that was there 75 years ago, a little bit of a nail left from the rust, or if there's a 2x4 that's rotted out laying on the ground someplace, they say, that's not a border wall. That's
he said there's a little bit of a nail from the rust.
all left from the rust. 61 miles of border wall. You know, if there's a little piece, if there's a nail from a wall that was there 75 years ago, a little bit of a nail left from the rust, or if there's a 2x4 that's rotted out laying on the ground someplace, they say, that's not a border wall, that's a renovation. No, it's not a renovation. It was, you'd see little areas where you'd have some dead wood rotting on the ground for 40 years. We built over 500 miles, much more than I said I was going to do. And then we had an additional 200 miles that we were getting ready to put up. We could have done it in 3 weeks. He could have done it. And they decided not to do it. And it was a terrible thing because our border is a mess. But they actually wanted open borders. That was the amazing thing. But we got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. You know, when we talk about, I said, I'm going to charge Mexico for the wall. This is much more expensive. There was no legal mechanism that Mexico could give us money to build a wall for us. But there was legal precedent for them giving us soldiers. And I went to the president and I said, you're going to have to give us a lot of soldiers. Why? Because they're coming through your country and they're hurting us very badly. No, I won't do that. I won't. And I liked him a lot. He said, but would you speak to my representative? So they came to Washington, a delegation. They saw me. The State Department was heading it. And a woman, very good woman, but a lousy negotiator, to be honest with you, very quality woman. She loved Mexico. She worked in Mexico for 25 years. She said, sir, they will never give you that. We've been trying to get that for 25 years. I said, oh, I'll get it, 100%. I said, what else do you want? And we got Tom Homan involved, who's great, you know, central casting. I think he's central casting. He was great. And we got our Border Patrol people, Brandon Judd, and all of these people. These are incredible people. They actually want to do their job. They have a much easier job by not doing their job, but they want to do it. And I said, give me a list of the top 10 things and Title 42, everything. They gave me a list that one of the things is remain in Mexico. You have to remain in Mexico. You can't come into our country. So I had a list of 10 things, catch and release in Mexico. We called it catch and release in brackets in Mexico.
Now, here goes my question. He's saying all this stuff, right? And with everybody with their focus on the border issues, I'm sure it sounds good, right? But now my question for you guys is I want to know what you all think about the doability of what he's talking about. Is what he's talking about doable? Is he going to actually be able to accomplish this? If you guys think that this is doable and he's actually going to be able to accomplish this, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that it's doable and you don't think that he's going to be able to accomplish this, then give me a thumbs down. I want to know what the pathway is to accomplishing this.
If we have catch and release in our country, then nobody would ever leave. So they gave me these things, and this very handsome man shows up representing the president of Mexico. And he said, chief top guy. And he said, sir, you've asked for some things that, of course, are ridiculous. Of course, yes, you'll give them to us. 100% you'll give them to us. No, we will not. I said, first thing we need 28,000 soldiers. free of charge. No, he goes, why would we do that? We're not going to give you 28,000. Sir, this is ridiculous. I said, no, 100% you're going to give them to us, 100%, I have no doubt. Then I want to have a remain in Mexico policy where people can't come into our country. They have to stay in your country until we've had them. And he said, no, we won't do that. We've never done that. We won't do that. Yes, you will. 100%. I'm telling you 100%.
Now, how is he going to be able to get Mexico to do all of this? And how is he going to be able to enforce this? So my thing is, right, again, it sounds good, right? And these are issues that are on everybody's mind. But my question is, how is he going to be able to do this? And how is he going to be able to enforce it? Now, another thing that I'm curious about is how is he going to deal with the people who are already here, the migrants that are already here, exhausting all these resources? How is he going to deal with that? It's always good, and it sounds good to hear all of these aspirations and all of these promises and things being sold, but beware if they don't come with a specific plan of how they plan to do any of this stuff. If you ask me, if I'm not hearing a plan, until I hear a plan, all I'm hearing is hot air. So it sounds nice, but you know what I'm saying? Without a plan, as far as I'm concerned, he's just selling sweet nothings right now. What do you guys think?
And he started getting confused. He was saying, like, then we did the problem where very sick people are coming into our country. So we had, as you know, we have a very specific bill that was passed years ago to keep people that are sick. We don't want to catch disease from people that sadly are not feeling so great, and various other things that were just as bad. And I had 10 of them. I said to the Border Patrol, I said to Brandon Judd, give me your top 10, a top 10 list. And he gave me a top 10. And he smiled. He said, you know, they've been after this for years. They haven't been able to get 1/2 of one. So because, you know, every country out negotiates us because we have stupid people running our country for the most part. When you look at what China did, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars. Nobody before me, nobody took in 10 cents from China. So I said, no, this is what I want. And he tells me, and I said, here's the story, sir. I'm signing before me a bill. And if you don't have this approved before the end of this meeting, where we get 28,000 soldiers free of charge, and all of the other things stay in Mexico. We called it Remain in Mexico. Isn't that a nice title? Remain in Mexico. Sounds simple, but it's very complex for them.
Yeah,
not for us.
I gotta agree with Chris. Shout out to Chris. If you guys agree with Chris, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree with Chris, give me a thumbs down. Chris says if Trump didn't stop immigration in 2016 through 2020, he won't stop it in 2024. Yeah, that's a fact. Now, let me ask you guys this, right? Because one of the things that is important is the entire configuration of the Capitol building, right? So, as far as the legislature and the Senate and the Supreme Court, what is the optimal composition of government that Trump would need to where it would create an environment of where he could get things done as quickly and efficiently as possible? Let me know in the comment section.
I said, then I'm going to sign this. And this says that we are going to put on Mexico a 25% tax or tariff on every car. You know, they sold 32% of our car industry. I don't know if you know that, Jim. 32% of our car industry has been taken out of the United States. It's made in Mexico. They have factories that you wouldn't believe. They go miles long, bigger factories than what we have. They stole it over the years. Not with me. I stopped it. I was going to put a charge of if they make a car in Mexico, sell it in the United States, I was going to put a 30% tariff on it. And they decided not to build those particular factories. But nobody else does that stuff. So I said, here's the story. You're going to either do it or I'm going to put a 25% tax on every single product coming into the United States from Mexico. And that'll be far more money than the money that we're talking about. And he said, sir, may I make a phone call, please? You know the sign of a choker? It's when they start grabbing their neck because they can't breathe. Dan Gable never choked. He doesn't know what I'm talking about because he didn't choke. That guy was a winner. He's only like 150, I think 150 and one. I don't know. I think he had COVID for the one or something. I don't know what the hell. But the greatest guy, even Jim Jordan, who was an All-American, 3-time All, he said, nope, Dan was the greatest of them all. Do you still say that? That's pretty good, Dan. I mean, it's not chopped liver here, right? But anyway, so I said, all right, come on, you have 5 minutes. Just call up the president. And he walks back. Sir, on behalf of the President of Mexico, it would be my great honor to give you 28,000 soldiers free of charge. Give you, remain in Mexico, give you catch. The guys go like, and we got it all. And we had the safest border in the history of our country. And it was pretty amazing, and it was pretty easy. Under Biden, the USA has become a dumping ground to the world. And speaking of Mexico, you know, Biden's people went to see them 2 days ago. Mexico said, we want $5 billion just to talk. I said, what? They want $5 billion to talk. And you know what I got?
Hey, did y'all hear about that? Mexico wanted $5 billion just to talk. I didn't hear anything about that, but I'm going to actually look into that. I didn't hear anything about that, but if that's the case and they actually paid that and didn't say anything about it, that's crazy.
I said, we'll consider it. These are the worst. These are the worst people. And it's not even like bad. They're stupid people. Okay. They're stupid. They're stupid. In New York City last week, American school children were kicked out of class so that the school could be turned into a migrant camp. And think of this, a migrant camp. Biden puts America last. I put America first. Our border is so important. So important. Now, I do something, and because it's sad.
Now, think about this, right? Does everybody know about like how the sexual predator registry works? How do you enforce that if you just dump a bunch of people who you have no background information on into a school? One thing that I think is concerning is that the United States is more concerned with tracking and keeping surveillance on us than they are with tracking and surveilling the people that don't have any documents. If you ask me, not only is that backwards, not only is that a huge risk, but that's extremely problematic, and it also shows where the government is prioritizing us. You know what I'm saying? If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
We don't have a lot to do, okay? But boy, we're going to have a lot to do tomorrow. And you have a lot to do today to talk to your friends, right? Tomorrow's the big day, but we have a little time. Does anybody want to hear the snake? You want it? Take it up. Okay. Because I think it's so appropriate. Jim Jordan's never heard this before, I don't think. But it's so appropriate. And it has to do with people coming into your country. It has to do with who they are. You know what you're getting. We know what we're getting. We're getting terrorists. We're getting jailbirds. We're getting guys that were major drug lords coming into our country, staying here. And they're not going to be school teachers. They're not going to be innocent people. They're going to cause tremendous harm and death. And so this is called The Snake. And this was an old rock and roll song, but, you know, meant.
I think that is interesting. Trump is utilizing the migrant crisis to be able to connect with people. And I don't really think that any of the other candidates said very much about the migrant crisis. I mean, they said some things here or there, but they didn't really go on a diatribe like what he's going on. And I think because the migrant crisis is such a hot button issue, that might be a pretty effective strategy. Because the reason why I say that is when we do the next undocumented bros, or when we do the next undocumented video, whatever, whenever we get to it, wherever we get to it at, Biden is now saying that he wants to make change at the border because the border is not secure. We've never heard Biden even address the border. So I think that Trump has identified and honed in on the border as an issue that he can get a lot of swing support on, and he's going to drive this home the entire election. So what then is going to end up happening is that now people are going to start digging into his record on the border and his record on immigration. My question for you all is when people start digging into his record on immigration and his record on the border, what happens then? What happens with that?
Did somewhat, to be honest, probably every word is amended almost by me. But I think it's very instructive, and I think it's very important, actually. On her way to work one morning, Down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, cried the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying, thank you, ma'am, the snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I say.
Sometimes I wonder what the hell they be thinking when they read these poems or these songs or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. The snake, that's our border. We're taking in people from prisons. We're taking in people from mental institutions. We're taking in murderers and drug lords. We're taking in people that are very, very sick with diseases that will be spread all over our nation.
Man, Trump wild, man. Trump is wild.
We're doing the wrong thing for our country. It's going to be very hard to recover from that, but we're going to start on day one with deportation. Okay?
Now, what I find fascinating, right, exactly. Right. Shut, man. My man Black Star Racer is right, man. We here. You know what I'm saying? That's literally exactly what I think. I'm like, yo, bro, wow, man. Like, you know what I'm saying, bro, wow. You know what I mean? And I gotta agree with Chris. Shout out to Chris, because Chris is absolutely 110%. Chris says the white people going to vote for Trump regardless of promises and policies, and we know why. Facts. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what I find interesting and what I would find ironic, right, is all the people that Joe Biden has let in, because Joe Biden made a promise that he was going to, allow all these people in and, you know what I'm saying, make pathways to work and citizenship for like 11 million undocumented people and all this stuff. You guys remember when he said that? Now, if Trump comes in and literally reverses all the Biden policies and throws out all of the people that Biden brought into the country, for one, we're still going to have a migrant crisis at the border. And for two, all that's going to do is put us at zero. That's just going to be like a 1-1 situation. Joe Biden let one person in, Trump kicked one person out. What we got to do is we got to stop the surge. We got to stop the encounters, and we got to stop the illegal crossings. And we got to find a streamlined, more efficient way to process people, and people need to be prosecuted for illegal entry. Those are the things that need to happen. I highly, it's amazing how people listen to some of this stuff and they take it literal. I don't think literally anything is going to get done day one. Let me ask you guys this question. When Biden took office, what was done day one? I don't think that anything significant has been done day one of anybody's president in history or anybody's presidency in history. Does anybody recall back to the Biden administration, what he did on day one? Shout out to Ty. Ty said Asian crime bill. Did he? I don't think he did the Asian crime bill day one, did he? That wasn't on day one. Now, he did sign an executive order for it, but I don't think it was day one. Rob from Denver got me dying laughing. Rob said Trump is definitely pumped up on that Mucinex pseudoephedrine. Oh, man. That's pseudoephedrine. You know what I'm saying?
Does that make sense, by the way? Does that make right? Is there anyone in the room that doesn't get it? Because if you don't, please leave. We don't. You're hopeless if you don't get it. That's what's happening to our country. That's what's at the snake. Just remember it. As soon as I take the oath of office, I'll terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest deportation operation in American history. And, you know, it's not a nice thing to say. It's a tough thing to say. But remember, Dwight Eisenhower, if you actually know, he's a pretty good president. And when he was president, he was very much into exactly that. They had a big border problem, and he'd take people and they.
Man, shout out to everybody in the comment section. Yeah, I know a lot about Dwight Eisenhower. And if we're talking about border protection, I don't know if anybody's aware, but there's conspiracy theories. Again, conspiracy theories, because there's no proof of any of this, definitive proof. But if we're talking about border protection, legend has it that during the Eisenhower presidency, there were actual, you know, A words, and I don't mean assholes, all over the planet. You guys get my analogy? Because I don't want to say any conspiracy theory, you know what I'm saying, to get it, you know, had him messing with the channel. Look into some of the strange occurrences that occurred during the Eisenhower presidency. Matter of fact, you guys should, I think his daughter has a YouTube channel. Go look at what Eisenhower's daughter talks about. We're talking about border security. Shout out to Ty Valentine. Ty Valentine said, what do you think will happen day one? I think Trump will do what every other president does. Sign a bunch of blank sheets of paper, take a couple photo ops. You know what I'm saying? They'll have a crowd of random black people. He'll do some black photo ops. And then he'll probably just go chill with, you know what I'm saying, his kids somewhere. And, you know, that'll be about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, shout out to Win, Lose, or Rub. Right, exactly. Facts. If you guys agree with Black Star Racer said, you know what they say about conspiracy theories? It's only a 6-month preview. Facts. Big facts.
They just drop him on the other side of the border, but they drop back. And then he realized that you had to take him away, and they'd fly him 3,000 miles down into deep South America. And generally, they would never come back.
Yeah.
So he was very tough on deep.
Yeah, quote unquote, according to legend. And I say legend, quote unquote, according to quote unquote conspiracy theory, it does seem like that. But again, you can't really listen to anything that they say. You know what I'm saying? You can't really listen to anything that they say. You got to get your own information. Shout out to Jerry Bedford. Good morning, bro. What's up with you? Good to see you. Welcome to the stream.
Deportations, and we're going to have to, because what's happening to our country is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. We can't have 15, 16, 18 million people.
That's literally all they do.
Schools, they're taking over.
That's literally all they do. They do a bunch of signing, and all of that signing that they do is just reverse executive orders of the last president, which makes it, you know, basically non-factor legislation. It's the first day of the presidency, in my opinion, is a big show. It's a big photo op. It's a big public publicity operation, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Hospitals, you go to a hospital and you can't, and you know, you want to take care of people. They're people, whether they're American people, but it's not sustainable. It's no good. It's not sustainable. Our people are suffering greatly in Manhattan.
What? Whoa. What did Trump just say? He should have said fair use before he said that. We're not doing the content where we usually hear that. Yeah. Alert. You know what I'm saying? Alert. So now the thing that's interesting about this is, if we know that it's unsustainable, then that means that we know that something has to be done. And if something's not done, then something's going to break.
I mean, they're taking over our schools. They're taking over our hospitals. You go to a hospital And you can't, and you know, you want to take care of people. They're people, whether they're American people, but it's not sustainable. It's no good. It's not sustainable. Our people are suffering greatly.
Nah, I didn't hear that. Shout out to Patrick. Patrick said, Rob, you heard about Ben Carson maybe being the pick for VP? I didn't hear about that. But if that's the case, I'm not real excited about that either. To me, it's amazing how you can be brain dead and a brain surgeon at the same time. And that's the Ben Carson conflict. You know what I'm saying?
In Manhattan, you have thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people poured into New York, and they're living on Madison Avenue. They're staying on Fifth Avenue. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And in all due respect to the mayor of New York, he's fighting it as much as he's going to fight it. He's fighting a criminal element, a sick element. He's fighting an element of people that have no idea what they're doing to our country, or they do have an idea, and that's even worse, because if they did, they would know that they're destroying our country. Ron DeSanctimonious and Nikki Haley will never secure our border, and they'll never come close to it. It's only words. DeSantis, that's the abbreviation. I like that, because you can only say DeSanctimonious. It's good, but you can't say it too many times. And if you look, it's really rather brilliant, I must say. The best might be Pocahontas. You know, somebody said, what's your best? Pocahontas was good. You know, I have Indian blood, 1,004.
Trump, wow, man. Trump is a wild dude. This dude wild. That's why he M.A.G.A.TRON. That right there, that's why he's M.A.G.A.TRON.
Say too many times. And if you look, it's really rather brilliant, I must say. The best might be Pocahontas. You know, somebody said, what's your best? Pocahontas was good. You know, I have Indian blood, 1,014. I have Indian blood. She got her job.
Nah, I don't think he's talking about Pocahontas. I don't think he's talking about Nikki Haley. I think he's talking about Elizabeth Warren right there, Miss Nisi. I could be wrong, but I think he's talking about Elizabeth Warren.
Jobs by being a minority, right? She got into Harvard because she was a minority. She got everything. And then she met Trump. And we came up with the name Pocahontas, and she told her friend, he's killing me with that name. Then they said, you have to apologize. You have to apologize for what you're doing with her. And I did. I got up and I did. No, I did apologize. I apologize. I'd like to apologize to Pocahontas, the real Pocahontas, for what DeSantis did not introduce a single major piece of border.
Man, this dude is crazy, man. This dude crazy. That's M.A.G.A.TRON right there.
Security legislation in his entire time in Congress. He had no idea. He couldn't care less about it. And you know, one thing with a politician, this would be true with me also, but I was from Borders from day one. We did so well with Borders that in the 2020 election, it never came up. And I used to tell my people, I want to talk about Borders. They say, sir, they're not interested. I did such a good job that it wasn't a point of conversation, but we still got millions of more votes than we did the first time.
Woo-wee. Woo-wee. That's M.A.G.A.TRON, man. That's M.A.G.A.TRON. If y'all didn't know why the channel was called M.A.G.A.TRON, now y'all know why it's called M.A.G.A.TRON. You know what I'm saying? Woo-wee. I'm interested to see what Trump's follow-up on his comments on the border are. I'm interested to see if he provides a plan. I think we know what's going to happen in New Hampshire, but we're going to do a stream about it. We're going to cover it because him and Haley been going back and forth. And I got more streams and I got more content coming for y'all later on today. All right. So I appreciate each and every one of y'all who is in here. All right. If you're watching on the replay, or if you're not watching on the replay, if you're not watching on the replay, make sure you please leave a comment after the stream. If you're watching on the replay, help the algorithm and leave #replay. All right. Smash that like button, hit that bell, share the stream, subscribe to the Twitter. All right. And as always, ladies and gentlemen,